Hello there. Welcome back to Thriving Generation with Dr. G. I'm so excited you chose to join me once again. If you are new here, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please consider subscribing to be a part of this awesome thriving team. This week, I'm having a conversation with a wonderful lady who has pushed through life challenges to achieve her goal. Remember, we are learning to thrive in our generation. So let's learn from some people, their challenges, their experiences, and we can also use those to improve on ours. So let's get to the conversation now. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. You are a very special person to me, Dr. AC Thompson. Should I add the other name? Tani Eshun, my very favorite. Thank you so much for joining us here, Thriving Generation with Dr. G. This is the place we learn to thrive. We refuse to survive, but thrive. So we're excited to be having this conversation with you, a thriving mama. Yeah. Dr. AC, I'll let you, I'm going to call you Dr. AC because that's what I call you. So I'm not going to change anything here, but I'll let you introduce yourself and then we'll get into the conversation today.
Okay, sure. Well, thank you for all those compliments. And hi, folks. I'm glad to be here to have this conversation because I think that it's an opportunity to be reflexive, okay? Also looking back at what things have looked like and, helping you to understand some of the things that I probably never really understood while going through them. So, like my entrepreneur, scholar mom, Dr. G, says, my name is Esi Thompson. I'm also Esi Tani. That's my husband's name. I'm a mom. My day job is teaching at Indiana University. My life calling is to take care of my family, friends, and loved ones. And my spiritual calling is to live for my King. So that's me, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you all.
Wonderful, wonderful. So just give us a little bit about your background, your schooling to this point of becoming a professor. You said you're a professor at IU. Can you give us a little bit about your background? Let's know how you did it to this point.
Okay, sure. So I am the third child of my parents. We have 5 siblings. So I have 2 in front of me and 2 behind me, so right in the middle. My parents are in Ghana. I started school, I would say primary school, and then went to high school also in Ghana. I went to Agri. Those of you in Ghana, you know Agri Memorial Senior High School. It's a mixed school. I did that. After my college in Ghana, you do a 1-year service. So I was a teaching assistant back in my religious studies department. So yes, I applied to do a master's in religious studies because I really liked that. I liked Hebrew, I liked Greek, Old Testament Greek. So so when things are being said in church, they are being explained, I do have a certain background. It's really informative for me. Okay. But at the same time, I also wanted to, at the time, thought I wanted to do journalism. And I think part of it was people would say, oh, you speak well, you can be a journalist, you can talk on TV, go into broadcasting, So that's what I wanted to do. But that course was only being offered at University of Ghana at the master's level. So I applied to do religious studies, and then I also applied for the School of Communication Studies. Now that it was a really challenging program for me because I moved out of my comfort zone, the arts, religious studies, to go into communication, which I really didn't have any background in. And so there was a really new area for me. And I confess after the first semester, I wasn't sure I wanted to go on. These are my colleagues then were people in industry who had come back. They have expertise. Some have masters in different things. They have experience. This is this newbie who has just finished university and is coming straight in, So it was a challenging environment. And an environment like that, sometimes you begin to wonder if you're in the right place, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But again, by God's grace, I was able to go through. I finished the master's. And whilst there, we had the CEO of Strategic Communications, Esther Koba, She's a renowned communicator in Ghana, come to give a talk there. And sitting there and watching and listening to her, I remember telling God, God, I want to work with this woman. I want to learn have what she has. Because she wasn't only articulate, but she has worked in that consultancy, worked with various organizations, well-known organizations. So I just told God, I want to work with her. So when it came time for internships, myself and another friend of mine, colleague of mine, were placed in there, and we went to do the interview, and I got to intern there. And by God's grace, I got the opportunity not just to work there for my internship, but to work there for like 5 years. And those were really formative years for me as far as my current career is concerned, because I got to work with different clients. I got to work on public relations issues. I got to work on advertising, development, and health. And that is when I began to realize that my desire was not just normal PR, which I had come in to do and which I had focused on for my master's, but I was more interested in communicating about people's health, because I got to do stuff about HIV. I got to do stuff about we worked with Planned Parenthood, we worked with UNICEF. And so I realized that I was more interested in how people make decisions about health, how they come to assess risk, and really working with communities. So I got the opportunity to go back and teach at the School of Communication Studies. So I did leave Stratcom, and probably that was one of the really challenging things I've had to do in my life. Leaving strategic communication was really, really hard for me, because I was playing a role I really liked. I liked my colleagues, I liked my boss. I was growing in the organization. I could see the impact I was making. And usually when you are in such a position, it's hard. It was really hard for you to leave. And for me, it was actually even harder, because when I was going through the interview for School of Communication, you are hired as a master's student, and then you can apply for and get, what did you call it? I can't remember, but you can apply to go and do your PhD and be given a study leave to go and do it, and you're funded and you can come back.
Okay.
But at the time my letter was written, a new policy had come that if you don't have a PhD, you can only be given an assistant professor position. And it's a contract for 3 years. And after 3 years, the university has no obligation to you, and you have no obligation to them. And so, yeah, so after 3 years, the expectation was within the 3 years, you would find a school and go and teach. But unlike the past where you had the opportunity, because it's a steady leave, you have to come back, that thing no longer existed. So for me at that point, I'm like, I'm leaving a job that I like, that, you know, I'm really comfortable in, and I'm not going into a contract for 3 years. So it was so hard for me, but there was also this really deep push that I had to leave, you know? So I did leave. I went to School of Communication Studies. I think that was somewhere 2011, late. I took a leave. I had accrued leave for about 3 months. So I took that leave from Stratcom and started working at University of Ghana. And the leave, of course, ended with my resignation. So I did that, and I stayed at School of Communication Studies for 2 years. I went there, 2 years and thereabouts. And it was during working there, of course, you enter into this institution, you know, you have 3 years, you have to start thinking about school. I applied for a conference, and there I met the lady who later became my advisor at University of Oregon for my PhD, Leslie Steve. She is such a blessing. I did a presentation. She knew I was from University of Ghana. She had a program that brings students to University of Ghana. So I got to know her. She heard my presentation, and she said, if that's what I'm interested in, I should consider applying to University of Oregon. So I did. I got in. But by the time I got in, I had gotten married 2012 December. And
to my BFF.
Yes. And still teaching at the University of Ghana. And so I got accepted, I think it was about February or March. And I had just realized I was pregnant with my first son. And the program I was going into, it was based on a cohort. So you have to start with a cohort. and the school will start in September.
Mm.
I think 15th, my baby was due September 19th.
Okay.
So that brought a bit of a complication because I knew I wanted to do a PhD. I knew this program would work for me, but this was it. This was the case. It was my first baby. If you're from Ghana, you know, when you have a child, your mom's gonna come and help you, all of that stuff. And now I'm moving completely away. And so I did have to have a very, and please help me if I'm talking too much, strong introspective talk about what life we really wanted, my spouse and I, because once you're married, it's not just you anymore, right? It's what we're doing together. And so we had to talk about what things might look like and what we wanted. And their decision was, yes, go ahead with it. So I did have a chat with Leslie and we developed a plan for making sure I was still able to go. But you know, God is amazing. The plan included the fact that my mom will come and I have the baby. And then, as we often assume, when the baby is 6 months, my mom will bring the baby back to Ghana and I'll continue school and be coming home for vacation, all of that stuff. And I'm sure God was just smiling at us.
Your plans won't work.
Yeah. So, of course, we did all of that. I came in June and I'm a tiny person. So usually when I'm pregnant, you really don't see that anything is going on anyway. So I came, people didn't realize I was pregnant. I started blah, blah, blah. But as God will always have it, the baby that was due on September 19th, he was born on August 28th.
Okay.
My husband hadn't even come here because his flight was scheduled for 2 weeks later. My mom hadn't come because my sister, who was also expecting, had to go through a C-section. And so my mom had to take care of her. So she wasn't going to be able to come anymore. So my husband had to come and his flight was now 2 weeks out. So, but by then my mom-in-law was in Virginia. And so she willingly came over to help out. So, you know, sometimes when you're making these decisions and you're not exactly sure how things will pan out, I think it's important that we always leave it in the hands of God because he would see us through. How it came about that because they had come for a program and the program was done. So they should have been back in Ghana, but they were still here. She was able to stay for a month. My husband joined me and we went through it. And I would say having a baby in school is extremely hard, especially when you're in a totally new environment, learning stuff I had no introduction to, and my baby, he'd wake up like 6-7 times in the night, us at 8 a.m. in the morning, and he was nursing. So you can imagine how many hours of sleep I got, have to wake up and work. There were times, honestly, I would break down and cry and tell God, I'm tired of this. I'm exhausted, like my breath. You can't even cry because you're too exhausted to cry. I remember one time I was just bawling and then the baby also started crying. And I had a paper I was working on. So my first year in PhD was my hardest time in school ever. I look back at it and it was so hard. And I think the other part of it is I'm a bit driven, you know, so I want things at a certain quality. And when you're going through, your hormones are already moving up and down, you have a little human being you're taking care of, and you're in school, it's probably not the best of times to still hold yourself to those kind of perfectionist standards. So it was a really hard time. I mean,
so let me ask you, Dr. AC, so how did you practically go through these times? You know, there are other people out there, they are probably frightened by the fact that they have children and they want to go back to school or they want to venture into a new thing. It is hard, you've said it, but you did it. So how did you do it?
Very, very good question. One, lean on God. Lean on God. Like, for me, prayer is my outlet. I'll be so frustrated, I'll scream, I'll cry. But once I'm able to get it all out in prayer, there is some kind of relief and peace that comes and says, yes, you will get the assignments done. You will do it. Just take it one little bit at a time and do it. To try to have a support system. My husband was with me and I honor him for that. I mean, he was taking care of the baby whilst I was in school. But of course, as a mom, you're always like, hey, has the baby eaten? is he crying? Things that you worry about, but he was phenomenal. I had that support system really sustained me and helped me through that first year. And the other part of it that you want to be careful about is that for me, what I struggled with was I felt he was doing so much, and I didn't want to burden him with the challenges I was having with schoolwork. And so I was carrying that part by myself and still dealing with the emotional challenges. And looking back, I don't think that was really wise and helpful. Sometimes you're sharing your challenge with somebody and you know there's nothing they can do about it. But I think just getting it off your chest is really helpful and important. So looking back, I probably would do things a little myself. I remember the times I could have a break was when I was in the shower. Like I just look forward to the days I could just be in the shower and I don't hear the baby crying. Like, yeah. But I think it's always important to have that break for yourself. I don't think I carved that out because I was trying to get everything done. So really make sure you're able to get breaks for yourself. You know, just be by yourself and try not to worry about the other stuff, about the kids, about the baby, about the assignment. They will get done.
So let me just take you back a little bit. You did mention that it was really hard. You wanted to quit at some point. So why didn't you?
A number of reasons. I guess a part of me also wanted to, I've started something, I don't want to not end it. Okay. That reality is there. A friend of mine would also say, you know,
we're not going back to Ghana.
We're going back with our hands empty. We're here to do it, whatever it takes. We have to succeed.
So determination.
Determination is that focus that we will get through it. Like we just have to. It has to work. I think is one driving force. The other part was that I was convinced deep within me that God led me here into this PhD program. Because when I look back at the sequence of events and how I even got the admission and all of that, I just knew, because I didn't want to come to the US. I just didn't want to do my PhD or graduate studies in the United States. But somehow God orchestrated things for me to end up here. And so I knew that the hand of God was in it. So my prayer was, there's this Presbyterian song, and I'll say the words and I'll interpret it, that oh, yineni anase. Oh, yineni anase. So in my mind, I just kept telling God, it's when you take your eyes off me, then things can go haywire. And I know you have it. So things can just not go haywire. I mean, I represent you, God. If I am disgraced, it's not just me now. It comes account. You know, and so that thing too kept me going, that like he has to come through one way or the other for me.
So can I say your spirituality or dependence on God? So your first one was determination.
Yes.
Second one, dependence on God, spiritual support, right?
The third one, the resource and structural support system that was available to me. Like I said, my advisor was extremely helpful, helped me to locate resources. God gave me friends here who would come and watch the baby for 2-3 hours, or we could go to class. Because eventually my husband also started his graduate school, and so that complicated things. We have a baby, we both have school. So we did have people who were willing to watch us, people who pick us and take us. A friend of us would always take us grocery shopping because we didn't have a car, so she'd drive us and back, you know, all of that kind of support system, I think, is extremely important. And things we should pray and ask God for, you know. A lot of times we tell God to help us do something, but it's also important that you ask him to bring people into your life that can help you go through what you're going through, right? And I think that that's really something you should think about. So the support systems that you have, I don't know how you would describe that in Thriving Generation terms, Dr. Yes, that for me was also extremely
social support, social and family support. That's it. You are the doctor, you know it all. So Dr. AC, I mean, I appreciate, you know, I think people can generally probably relate with determination. People can relate with social and family support. When it comes to spirituality, it becomes a bit dicey.
there are a group of people who believe that I can do it. I don't need that aspect. And I've heard you speak, and most of the time you refer to God, you refer to God being there for you. Would you, how would you explain to somebody who doesn't have that aspect, and it sounds like she keeps saying God is doing this and God, and it sounds like, what is she talking about? You did the hard work, you went to the school, you did the studying. So how do we balance that, and how can you make us understand practically what it means when you talk about God helped me, God gave me this, God gave me that?
As you were speaking, I was just thinking about, yes, I say God. Others will say the universe gave me this opportunity. Others will say the unseen force around me. Others will say luck, and so we tend to associate, and we believe, and we all say that a lot of things happen outside of our own control, right? And we associate to different things. Sometimes I was fortunate, I was lucky, or this or that. For me, it's not the fortunate or the lucky. It is the person, God, who I know has been opening these opportunities and doors for me. I always ask myself that when I get up in the morning, not once have I ever wondered whether my legs are there. And I use this example not to in any way belittle people's feelings or people who have gone through different challenges or lost a body part. But whenever I wake up, I don't check to see if my leg is still there. I just automatically swing my leg off the bed because I expect it to be there. Now, what if you did that and then you realize your leg was not there? And a lot of times, people who have had to have a body part amputated will tell you that naturally they go back to that expectation of the norm, but that norm does not exist. For me, my consciousness that the norm that I'm experiencing now is just not normal. It just doesn't just happen, but it is by God, is what I mean when I'm always referring to God, right? Things happen every day on a daily basis, things we are aware of, things we are not. And for me, my faith, it could be some other reason, but my faith is in God, in his son Jesus, and the price is paid for me. That gives me that access to be able to come to him, to be able to depend on him. So maybe I want to throw this challenge to you. I'm talking so much about God. And I want to throw this challenge and make an invitation to you that if you don't know this God I'm talking about, I want to give you a chance to give him a chance in your life, if I can put it that way. Consider associating and getting to know and loving this God, if I may, Dr. G, giving him a chance in your life and saying, okay, this is the God Dr. IC is talking so much about. I want to get to know this God. And I'm sure Dr. G has a lot of resources that will guide you, because seriously, I don't know where I'd be without him. And so I guess for me, practically is beyond the step of faith, of believing in this God, knowing his word and what he has said in the Bible and living by it is what I mean when I say God brought me through, because everything I'm living, I find a reference for it in the Bible.
Yeah. Okay.
And so for me, that is what I mean.
So you are guided by the God of the Bible.
The God of the Bible.
Because I have to clarify that there are several, okay? And I've been in a program that what you are describing as God, and of course, I am in the same religious belief with you, so I can understand. I've been in a seminar, it was referred to as spirit. And I've been in places, training programs. Yes, we know that there is a higher power, and we refer to it as the universe, like you mentioned. So I'm glad that you've clarified and you've given people the opportunity to experience what you have experienced and how it has worked out for you to this very point. So this is the thriving generation. We want to thrive. We want to go beyond survival. And I'm pretty sure you still have goals. You still have like so many things to achieve. I personally think you've achieved a lot. By standard, every standard, you've gone to the highest level of academic that your program may have. After PhD, what next? I don't know. So what would be your advice to us, the thriving generation, as we go through this world with all the chaos and all the many things we have to do. You've spoken a lot about your life, but if somebody's out there listening to us, wanting to thrive in this life, what would you say, Dr. Eshun?
I would say listen to the thriving generation for one, because they are filling in, shameless plug, they are filling in a much needed resource that I don't think is really available much, right? And so we go through this life in silos, and I don't think life was made for us to be lived in silos. So sometimes you're going through an experience and you probably don't know that somebody has gone through it, and we can learn from the experience. So God bless you for doing what you're doing, Dr. G, and responding to that call. In line with that, associating with people. I think it's always important to learn from those who've gone through it and have done it well. The only challenge, however, is that they only tend to show us the positives, what they've been able to achieve, but we don't see what they've had to endure to get to where they've got to. And so it's really easy for us to say, oh, I want to do this thing, I want to come to the highest level. And so the only things we see is it's perseverance, it's determination. Okay, I'm going to be determined, I'm going to persevere, but what were the challenges you have had to go through? So sometimes I say, you know, when you have these opportunities, let's probe and find out, okay, what didn't you get right? What did you fail at? What did you have to do twice? What were the times that you had to curl up in bed and cry because it didn't work out? How much money did you lose? You know, because then we see that it is a reality. It is not all glorious. There are challenges. Without the race, you can't get the prize, you know? And so I think it's important for us to, if you have the opportunity, learn not just from people's successes, but more importantly from their failures, because it shows you that what you're going through is probably normal, or you haven't thought about it in a different way that you probably ought to think about it. And so that's probably one of the things I would say. And little nuggets I can share with the thriving generation for now.
We appreciate you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your time. We have to have a part 2, you know, because this was just the professional aspect, but we live every day, and we have the social aspect and the family aspect, and a professor combining family, work, and all the others. We need to know more. So please, we'll be inviting you back for a part 2. But we want to say thank you on behalf of all the Thriving Gen family. Thank you so much for making time for us today, Dr. Eshun.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been my privilege to be here to share. And please make comments. Share what did I say that resonated with you? What did I say that you completely disagree with? Let's make this a conversation so I can learn from you as well. So thank you so much, Dr. G.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Oh.
Doing the serious though. Okay, oh Lord.